Thank you for joining us today and welcome to the Northwood University Alumni and Friends monthly webinar series. My name is Julia Damchek. I will be your host today. And today our special guest is Northwood University President Kent MacDonald. President MacDonald will share some insights into the 2025-2026 academic year, and then we will open it up for some question and Q&A. After his presentation. Just a few reminders before we get started. We will be recording and emailing this webinar out to you later this afternoon, along with a survey. So we encourage you to fill out that survey once you receive, and then share the webinar with others you might think would enjoy the message. And during the webinar, remember to place your questions in the Q&A chat box, and we'll try to get to them all after the presentation is complete. All right, without any further ado, please help me welcome the president of Northwood University, Kent MacDonald.
Thank you, Julie. It's funny just watching the names come in. I see Steve from the old country in England. Hope you're doing well, Steve. We're going to see each other soon. And Chris down in North Carolina. Chris, our son Patty, graduated from Northwood and he's living in Cary now. So hope things are good down there, and wish everybody well. Let me just start off with addressing the tragic events of yesterday. Besides us being able to have difficult conversations and dialogue being the obvious one, the fact that universities exist, we are supposed to be the marketplace of ideas. We probably talk about that. We're supposed to be where intellectual debate and conversations occur. So certainly not lost on us that the assassination of Charlie Kirk on a university campus in some ways makes it even more despicable. You should know that Northwood has a strong turning point chapter here. We were involved in their big event in Phoenix last December. We had students at another big event. There's events all over the place, but a big event in Orlando in the summer, and we'll have a strong presence again, just attracting and sharing our values with parents and employers and students who go to some of these events. So it's a tough day on campus. At 8 o'clock this morning, I met the leaders of our Turning Point group, and they're actually planning an event just outside my window at 4 o'clock. And so we're wrapping our arms around those students and obviously keeping in prayers, not only for Charlie Kirk's family, but the state of affairs of the country, that we resolve these things in this manner. I don't think anybody can comprehend. So someone else asked me, just if you're interested, is so does Northwood put out statements on this kind of thing? And my belief is that an institution, a university, is actually not a real thing. It has buildings, and but the real thing are the people in the university, the faculty, staff, and the students, and so maintaining neutrality as a non-human entity is my preference, and supporting our students from doing events like this afternoon and supporting our faculty for having conversations in the classroom. That's where learning occurs, and that's where proper debate can occur on all of these things. So anyway, it's a difficult day, but we'll move on. So thank you for allowing me just to share that thoughts and update you if you're wondering what's happening. The other thing as alum you might wonder is, so does Northwood, what flags are you flying? So policy that we have at Northwood is really clear as well. There's only 3 flags we fly in this campus. That's our policy. We fly the American flag, the predominant one, and we fly the state flag, and we fly the Northwood flag. Those are the only flags. And so again, that's an example of a inanimate entity like Northwood. If someone else wants to fly a flag they can do that. So the reason I raise that is we did have one student ask us, we fly 6 flags on the campus, there will be a 7th soon. Um, why is our large flag not at half mast? And so we follow the actual American flag protocol that comes out of Washington, and much more complex than I ever thought it would be, but that's the protocol. And the president determines when the American flag is up or down. So our flags are flying at half mast, except for the large one, and it's only because that's also serves as a cell tower, and it's difficult to move that. We can't move it halfway. It has to be either on and off. So we prefer to keep it flying. And so a little bit of background information for everyone today. So with that, it leads nicely, sadly, but nicely into kind of observations on what is happening on university campuses today. And you might be shocked to know that if we went back 1 decade ago, even though there's more people living in the country, there's actually 3 million fewer students who have decided that that universities are so important that they're going to invest their time and money and go to them. So this notion that universities were always going to grow, always going to be valuable, that is under question right now by some people simply, I mean, I could debate that, but simply by the data that's been borne out over the last decade. And I think it's actually going to get worse. It's being exacerbated by nearly $2 trillion in student debt. There's 10% of young people 16 to 24 are unable to get employed right now. People are being underemployed, and people are starting to question what is the purpose of a university. And I think, quite frankly, the university, or what we refer to as the academy, has contributed to the population starting to question, is a university education actually worth it? We always thought it was a golden ticket. And so all of these things have contributed to doubt and wondering if the ROI is worth it. And are we actually developing people with the skills and knowledge that employers need actually out of in their future employees? So that's why, as alum, if there's one, and I hope there are many, but if there's one thing that you should be proud of, it is something that I'm pleased, not surprised, but pleased, and probably a little relieved that in many of these cases over the last 3 years that Northwood has been bucking that trend. I've talked to if you've been on these calls before at different events and shared some of the data, that we have seen increases in enrollment in undergrad and grad and online and international. Those are our four, if you look at a business, our lines of revenue is our undergraduate tuition, our graduate tuition, our online tuition, and then our international activity. There's ancillary services. You rent a room in the hotel. We sell a hot dog at a football game, but those are essentially the four areas. Now, this year, the first year, for the first time in 3 years, first year students have not gone up. That's a concern to us, and I'd rather just be transparent. And it's always easier to talk about growth than not. But there's contributing factors. We've seen a drop in our international students. We believe, with the data that we've been able to go through, that the free college tuition programming, which is paid by you, the taxpayers, is contributing to it. And so we're hopeful that our efforts to work with our community college partners, we will see those students come to us in 1 or 2 or 3 years. But it did fall off a bit this year. The good news for Northwood is you have to look at not just the new students coming in, because in America, regular four-year universities, the graduation rate is really not very good. In many cases, less than 50%. You know, you have 100 students start this year, 4 years later, you have less than 50 who are actually graduating. And in fact, it's a little worse than that, because the way they calculate it is often two, depending on who's measuring it, 2 or 3 years out after they start. So you get your 4 years you should complete, and then 2 or 3 years afterwards. And those are the numbers that are difficult. Our numbers of our first to second year returning students this year actually went up. We're at nearly 85% of those students. So those people come and they like it and they stay, and that's a good thing. So overall, we feel good about enrollment. And as a business university, it's important to share that. But there's a lot of other things that I could also feel really good about sharing with you. When you come back onto this campus, you're going to see a lot of changes. I'm looking out today, and I'm just so proud of our students. Since the last several years, we've had a fraternity wake up early in the morning, and they plant nearly 3,000 American flags throughout the campus, mostly on the mall walk, but the different paths. And to come onto campus today, 24 years after that horrific event, and see these flags out, I think you'd be very proud of these students. But as you walk down the mall walk, there's a few things that you would observe. If you haven't been on campus, you got to get back on. But we're opening that area up. Look, we've got lots of trees at Northwood. I'm a tree lover as well, but we've got a lot of trees just to make the campus. You actually can see the other buildings, so new pathways, the equivalent of Lincoln on the Prairie statue to honor our distinguished women. We now have an order. It's a $2 million project. It will occur down near the bookstore as you enter your way into the cafeteria by Miner and Du Bois. We'll have an equivalent statue there by Anna Huntington, who is America's, I think, greatest female sculptor. And she's has passed away, but she's the same lady who did Lincoln on the Prairie. She did another one with a young lady, and so that will be beautifying that end of the campus. If you were go a little north, you would see that we put a $2 million investment this summer into a new turf field. We've added lights to that. So this is not only for our soccer programs and our lacrosse programs, but it's just to be able to, I was on the campus late last night and the previous night to see students out there using these facilities for recreational purposes, staying healthy is really good as well. You're going to hear and continue to hear more. We had a meeting yesterday on the new Center for Automotive and Mobility Studies, and pretty soon Steve Medencia, who's on this call, is going to join us in sharing a new academic program that we're working on, but I won't spill the beans on that. It's really, really exciting. But for us to renovate NADA and build on a new conference center and completely change the feel of that building, give our learning spaces, bring those up to speed, be able to host events of up to 370, 375 people in a proper type of conference center on our campus is going to be spectacular. And we're under contract with a couple of companies. Progressive is one. They're the architectural firm, and they met with us just yesterday, and the construction company called Spence, that they are going to trying to tighten up the budget on that, but it's going to be a $25 million investment onto this campus. You're going to see a beautiful new learning spaces and gathering spaces by 2027. So if you're coming to Auto Show, you won't be able to see it yet, but we'll have some information about that. So the campus is slowly transforming itself. This is really, really important. Students today are fickle, quite frankly. They expect they're going to get an education, a very good education at Northwood when they come. They're going to get the skills that employers are looking for. That's why they're all getting multiple job offers. And they're going to get well-paying jobs because of the type of education that we offer here, practical, hands-on experiences that are outstanding. I just want to switch though quickly though beyond some of those academic things. For those who were involved in our athletics program, the last year was absolutely stellar. We've turned around a number of our programs. The basketball men's program was not doing well for a few years. Really, really great change last year in our program. Our football program is winning again. We have a big game against Saginaw Valley this weekend, and next weekend on campus, the coach guaranteed. No, he didn't guarantee me, but and I've been told not to guarantee victories. But among friends, I guarantee a victory on campus for our homecoming and auto show. But just last year, for example, our women, led by Autumn Hagabone, she was the conference coach of the year. Our hockey program, led by Jordan Cooper, a Division One hockey program, won the conference, and Jordan won Coach of the Year. Brad Baldwin, for the very first time, took our program and beat that big school down in Grand Rapids to make it to the NCAA finals down in it was near Eucharist down in Cary, North Carolina, and did really well. Brad was a Coach of the Year, so we're doing extremely well athletically, extremely well academically. We're continuously winning competitions. I'll just give you an example for our DECA program. Excuse me, for our a mock trial program to compete at the University of Toronto, U of T. I'm not a fan of rankings, but let's just take one of them. The international rankings ranks it, I think, at the number 17 or 18. They say best university in the world. They have 100,000 students. The fact that our mock trial, led by our great professor Delois Liepard, went up there and won that competition. These are David and Goliath stories that I see over and over. We've done it in BPA. We've done it again in mock trial. We've done it in DECA. This year, a young guy by the name of Corbin, a great young student, the fact that he went to Florida and won the National Accounting Championship coming from Little Midland, Michigan, Northwood University is absolutely fantastic. So as alumni, you need to know the currency of your degree is only as good as the next group of students that are coming out. And so you should be really pleased to know that our faculty are preparing really well-prepared, smart graduates for the workforce. We've had 14 national championships in esports in the last year, and the list could go on. So come back to campus and see us, and I think you'd be extremely proud. As I like to say, Northwood University is punching well above its weight class when it comes to academics, our infrastructure, our athletics programs, and the quality of the students. As I mentioned earlier, putting flags out, honoring the life of a young 31-year-old man. I will do that, as I mentioned tonight. So let me just shift a little bit in terms of, so what's important? We're just finishing up the 2021 to 26 strategic plan. It's been a fantastic plan. A lot of you contributed to it. You'll be asked again to contribute to the next one. Our trustees gave us outstanding kind of guidance, pushed us to set our kind of sight lines a little bit higher. And we structured that strategic plan not with kind of loose language of we aspire to be. We put in hard, measurable targets of by this date, we're going to accomplish this numerical value, and as a way to measure our success. So we're coming to the end of that. We're in our final year, and we are in the process that started last winter of creating a new strategic plan. When you're asked to contribute, I would really encourage you to help us with that. You were really helpful last time, and the message I've given is once we think the threshold is high enough, I'd like you to go away for a night and come back and set it a bit higher the next day, because that's what we need to do if we're going to continue, not just to survive, but to thrive as a university. But some of the other priorities are these. You're going to hear more about these. I did a video this morning that you might see in the coming weeks, and I can't imagine us in 5 years not taking action like yesterday on how are we going to digitally transform Northwood. I know when I say AI, I mean AI has been around since the 1950s. It was a term that was coined at Dartmouth College in the 1950s. We've been having uh, aspects of artificial intelligence, machine intelligence, machine learning for a long time, but something feels significantly different now. So our effort to transform Northwood, it's not going to result in labor loss. What it's going to do is allow us to act much more quickly, at less cost, better services to our students, freeing up resources so that we can reinvest them in areas. We're a small university, we don't have deep pockets, so we need to be really clever on where can we take our scarce resources and put them in the areas that are going to have the greatest impact to continue to advance Northwood. So you are going to hear more about the digital transformation of Northwood, and it will touch on so many things. Let me give you an example of something that our AI group is working on right now. If I were to study at another university or college, or maybe not even study, let's say I haven't taken any courses, but I served in the military and or I've done this work in my family business. I know how to balance the books. I understand marketing. I've grown my business to $1 million, whatever it might be. Those are all things that we put under previous learning, prior learning, and how do we give credit for that? Well, the way it would work is you would say, "Hey, I'd like to come to Northwood," and we would then say, "Well, you need to write down all the things that you've done from a academic programming point of view, like halfway through this program or these courses, and then all of your professional things." And it would take 2 or 3 weeks to kind of muddle through that and get back to you. And the reality is, we lose a lot of students because they just don't have time for that, and a lot of international students. So through the use of these emerging technologies, including applications with AI, we have now developed our own proprietary credit transfer solution so that future students can come on, plug that material in, and instead of waiting 2 or 3 weeks, bang, they get an answer on not only what we're going to give you credit for, but we're going to actually lay out a path for you to say you need to take these X amount of courses in this area, and here's a way that you could actually do that. So that's just one example. Our faculty met this summer, spent a lot of time on how are we going to use AI, and not just how to pull research material, but how will we teach them to use these technologies to actually embed change in organizations once they graduate. So this whole transformation digitally of Northwood is something that in my last 5 years in my term is something that we're taking very seriously, because I do think that when 5 years comes along, we're going to be able to say we are so darn lucky that we invested our time and effort into those things way back in 2025. A couple of the other priorities that I'll say one more priority and then in a couple of two more areas of focus is, if you look at our mission statement, it doesn't say that we develop free enterprise leaders to drive global and social and economic progress. Uh, it actually says up front that we develop global leaders to drive economic and social progress. So we either live to our mission, that being why is it that we exist, or we don't, and we're going to. So there is much more opportunity for us around the internationalization of Northwood. And I don't mean just attracting international students, because some of that's out of our control, like we've felt this year with visas not being approved. Um, but what value is it for a Northwood student to have more of an opportunity to study abroad? The semester in Europe, many of you have said, Kent, that was the best thing that I did at Northwood. We need to figure out ways, maybe not to do a full semester, but to expose students to the realities of working in a flat global economy. And the good news is we don't have the deep pockets of the big publics, but here's something that they don't have. They don't have international program centers in places like beautiful Colombo, Sri Lanka, or in Switzerland on Lake Geneva, or in Rouen, France, just north of Paris. A new international program center that we're opening, and I have a meeting about this weekend in Dublin, Ireland. That we have a great relationship with an outstanding institution just north of Mexico City in a beautiful, beautiful city, safe city called Querétaro, and a wonderful place for students to go. So internationalizing Northwood, I think it behooves us to do this in a really intentional way and not just harvesting students. Look, I'm not a real fan of the notion of 600,000 Chinese students coming to Northwood. I'm going to take the politics under that, to the US, excuse me. Take the politics out of it and put it from just a practical point of view of it doesn't make sense to me, and you can Google this, why some universities have 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 students from one country in the world. I call that harvesting students. It is not fair to them to sit in a classroom when everyone else around them thinks like them, sounds like them, has the same kind of life perspectives. Internationalization means getting people together with different views and different ideas and blending those together to do something even better. So Northwood is not going to go down that path. We're going to remain a small, intimate university. That's what we want to be. But we do want to better prepare our own domestic students to have experiences, and we do want the diversity of thought to occur in our classrooms. So when a professor says, this is how you need to be thinking around this and how to communicate in marketing, if you have a young kid from Kandy, Sri Lanka, say, sir, that won't work if you're exporting your product into Sri Lanka. And this is why. That's very, very valuable. So the internationalization is going to continue to be a priority. But all of these things will be hammered out in the new strategic plan. But two things they won't be changing. Number one is we continue to focus on raising money to make us more competitive. We are an expensive school for a lot of students. Last year, we had just about 150 students who said, I want to come to Northwood. They gave us a down payment and they didn't show up because they couldn't afford it. That's a shame when that happens. So increasing our scholarship pool will continue to be a priority. A second one is the fact that at Easter this year, I could pick up the phone and call Claudia Fry, with President Fry having just passed not too long ago. Claudia was getting on a plane, going over to Austria, and for me to say, Claudia, we've just hired an incredible new professor, Dr. Ben Zakri, and he's going to be the David E. Fry Professor in Free Market Economics. So she cried a little bit, and I cried a little bit, and the fact that we could hire Gabrielle into an endowed professorship like that is because we've raised money, we've put that money in an endowment, and we live off the proceeds of the endowment, and it allows us to attract really great faculty. And so when you look back and you think of Orville Watts and Dale Haywood and Pankoff and Reed, um, we have those people on our campus today, and we just need more of them so that, when we're all little old people, we'll have the next generation of students talking about the Benzakris and these people who have been able to we've been able to attract to the campus. So those two things from a fundraising point of view, as well as money for infrastructure, is why I'm so proud that we were announced our largest gift ever, $20 million at the President's Freedom Celebration this year from the Daniel and Pamela DeVos Foundation. Dan and Pam were there to announce it. I mean, they're so humble. They didn't want to speak, but they honored us by being there. And that $20 million elevated us to $75 million is where we are in the campaign right now of a $100 million campaign that we're currently in. And we announced that at the President's Freedom Celebration. So this is your call to action. I mean, it's one thing for us to get together at homecoming or auto show. and we'll, have some pretzels and have a beer. We need your help. We need your help in any way that you can give, ideally by making small financial contributions, whatever you might be able to afford, giving up a coffee, or maybe you want to think about Northwood in your state. We need the support of our alumni and our friends. And if you're not, look, there's young people here who have kids going to school and they bought their first house. We understand that. Uh, but you're able to connect us with people. Maybe it's the person who owns the company that you're in, who believes in the Northwood idea and our values. All of us, you'll continue to hear me say this, all of us can contribute in our time, our talent, or our treasure so that the momentum that we currently are under right now is going to continue. So look, we don't have the numbers of graduates. We have as many graduates right now as some of these other schools have right now in their campus. So we're competing against elephants, big, big machines. So I know we rely heavily on you. And if it's a small amount, we deeply appreciate it. Um, Two last things. No, number one is Auto Show is coming. Julie's going to talk about this. It is a trip to Ireland. We had our first trip led by our First Lady, Mary Ellen, and it was fantastic. We went to Alaska. We had, alumni from the Netherlands. We had alumni from Colorado. We had supporters of the university. It was a fantastic experience. The Ireland trip, Julie can talk a little bit more about that. But and you'll hear more about it at the auto show. But the one thing that I want to leave you with is our students. And it's a story that I told at the President's Freedom Celebration that um, this is this is a fantastic university. And I spend a lot of time looking at other universities. This is a very good school, and it's great because supporters like you, our faculty and staff, but the type of students that we attract, and let me explain it this way. So we've had Mary Kissel from the Stevens Group on our campus. She's an international known thought leader on events happening around the world. She was second under Mike Pompeo and the work that he was doing in the former administration. She's in the Wall Street Journal. She's just a brilliant, brilliant woman. And with Stevens, she went over to meet, and Stevens is a multi-billion-dollar company and financial banking company. She was in New York and she met with the CEO of a $60 billion company. And Mary said to him, and she said I could share the story. She said, "So, what's happening? What are your priorities? What's on your mind?" And he said, "Mary, here's what's driving me crazy, trying to run this really, really important financial company in New York City, is for years I've hired really smart kids mostly out of these places that they call the Ivy League. And here's the issue that I have today. First of all, if they don't change, they need to know that all of their jobs, accounting, finance, all of that's going to be replaced by AI. So they need to add value to this company. And the problem that I have, I'll give you an example, is we had a major company, another billion-dollar company, doing work with that financial services company. And the CEO of that firm was really irritated because these really smart kids, young people who are working at the New York firm, thought that they could solve everything by keystrokes on a computer or text messages on a phone. And nothing was getting done. Even though academically, academically they were smart. And so Mary said, "So what happened?" And he said, "Here's how we resolved it. There was one young woman who decided, she listened to all of this, heard the frustration. She went out of her office, went into her car, drove 3 hours, met the client face to face, stayed there for 3 hours, solved the issue, got back in the car, and everything's resolved." And what's the moral of the story? He said. The moral of the story is we need graduates who will get in their damn car and drive. So when you think as alumni, what are the state of affairs of Northwood? I've explained to you our successes academically. I've explained our successes with your help through infrastructure and scholarships and things. Our greatest asset right now is we've got kids, young kids, who have the wherewithal and personal conviction to get in their car, figuratively, and drive. And so you would be proud of them. And so when you do see a Northwood student, when you come onto our campus, I would encourage you to spend some time. They look you in the eye, they shake your hand, and they're ready to work. And they're ready to commit to the Northwood idea. And in this respect, they understand success needs to be earned, not given to them. And so, with all of that, Julie, I'll stop. I know we've got a few minutes, and as you know, I've got a plane to catch. But really, really enjoy giving people an update. And your alma mater is an incredible institution that I'm blessed to serve. So thank you.
It is. Thank you, Kent. All right, we're going to open it up for some Q&A. So type in your questions right now if you have a chance. We do have one so far. Most institutions of higher ed are transitioning from Blackboard learning management systems to Canvas, which is more popular and user-friendly. Have we considered this at Northwood? Kent, are you familiar? If not, Dan, are you familiar?
No, I am. We've just done a big upgrade on Blackboard
Okay.
that I think puts it at level with Canvas. But I do know Canvas. It is a great product. That will be an area that Julie, maybe the academics. I actually like asking that question just because we've made that investment and brought ourselves up to where we need it to be. Uh, um, we need that's a digital transformation concept that we need to have the best tools available at all time. And so maybe Kristen could give some more background. But I mean, Blackboard is a very good tool as well, particularly its current version. It's much, much different than it previously had. But I know Canvas well, and it is a very good product.
We'll be sure to share that question with the digital transformation team and the academic team. Yep, thank you. All right, still waiting for more questions, but I do have a comment. President MacDonald, you're an exceptional leader and an inspiration to those around you. The more I hear you speak, the more impressed I am with your vision, clarity, and ability to motivate others. Your leadership gives great confidence that Northwood is not only in capable hands, but also on a path toward continued growth and success. So thank you.
I see
Thank you,
we
sir.
wrote that. Hey, Wes, I'm going to go into your transcript and knock your grades up a few. Okay. Thank you.
And Christopher Deming did mention that he was actually at that game in North
Oh,
Carolina,
yeah,
the
that was
baseball game.
yeah, Chris. I don't know if you were at the first one or second one. That second one was tough, that home run. But think of that young man who that home run, walk-off home run. I mean, it hurt us, but it's a memory that young guy will never forget. But thanks for always being there, Chris. Appreciate you.
Any more questions? Oh, here's one. What does Northwood need most to continue to move forward over the next 5 years?
I think it has to look. I'm pretty student oriented. Um, there's actually studies, that they've done. Not literally where, you can't learn when there's water dripping on your desk, but you can imagine the facilities aren't perfect. The campus is not perfect. Um, uh, there is evidence that you can still have an outstanding learning experience. You might get cold, you might get wet, using those bad examples that I gave you. Learning occurs because you got great faculty and you've got great students. And so I think we have done a heck of a job of, I mean, these young, not just young, I met with Glenn Moots and Dale Matchuk just this week for a coffee and get caught up on some really interesting things they're doing. So we've got those experienced people doing wonderful things. Some of these new people that Kristen and Stacy have hired are really, really good professors. So let's just say we're getting that covered. Um, my issue is, look, I'm a full on capitalist, free enterprise. Um, but there is an issue that I have when we have someone who believes in our values, who wants a Northwood education, who has business concepts, who wants to be a leader, who could be a positive contributor, and they need to, and I'll say it, they need to settle for something less because they can't come to Northwood. We need to crack the code on how we can make Northwood more affordable. Now we're doing that. It's not just about money. We just launched a 3-year degree, fully accredited by the Higher Learning Commission, taking 3 years to get the key skills that employers want, approved by CSA in cybersecurity. That's one way to make it affordable. You just go for 3 years instead of 4. And look, if you go over to England, all those Scotland, they're all 3-year programs, so we can do this. But there's still the element of affordability. And if we could imagine us having, I'll think really big. Imagine us having $500 million fund, endowment fund for scholarships. Imagine that when we're all little old people in gray hair, and we pay out 4.5 or 5% of that $500 million. That would make Northwood completely affordable to whoever wanted to come here. So all these other things I think we're putting into place. The one thing that's heartbreaking is to have 150 kids who wanted to be here who couldn't be here because they couldn't afford it. So if I could sprinkle, some pixie dust from my office and say I would like to fix that, it wouldn't be $500 million, but significantly increase the scholarship pool, that would be it. Because this place transforms people's lives. We just need to give them a chance.
It does. All right. I've got two more questions, and I think we might have to wrap it up. You've got a plane to catch. Is there a plan for an expansion to housing options as we hope to increase revenue?
Yeah, it's a great point. What I call what I've asked the team is to be shovel ready. The easiest thing that we could do is to spend money on a new residence, and the only thing guaranteed right now is that being an expense. So we actually have a series of plans ready, shovel ready, that if we can notch up our enrollment by probably about another 150 students, we have a couple of we've actually looked at all kinds of options from mini houses, and some universities are doing that, and one or two people live in them, and you make a little community of 10 or 20 houses. We've looked at adding on to maybe a sixth Nagley Village location. Two of those villages houses, by the way, are not even on concrete foundations, they're on wood foundations, so we need to do some upgrades there. But I've gone through every one of them, and they're good places. Students still love it living there. But that could be a scalable. Oh, I'm going from the small and scaling it up. So we could add 32 to 36 more beds by another Nagley and multiply that by 2. Or the other concept, not sure where it is, but if you could imagine the mall walk taking you down to the bookstore, so running east-west, and where it interjects to go north-south to take you on the other side of the bookstore with now Du Bois on your left as you walk towards DeVos. We've actually done some sketchings on could we build a residence around the perimeter off the bookstore, so there'd be 2 entrances. It would put more life, more activity right on the mall walk, which is something. North is great. If I could, press a reset button and bring it a little bit closer, just to add more the sense of life on campus. So those are 3 big projects that we've looked at, and the first order of business is to get our enrollment notched up just a little bit. Great question.
Thank you. All right, last question. Some campuses have moved to free textbooks for classes as a way to attract students. Has this idea been explored?
Yeah, we do it now. It's a great, great point. Not only, see, what's happening is, you go into a bookstore, you buy one of these things, and that book costs you $98. If you can barely get by, you're not buying the book. And so already we put that young person at a disadvantage. So the question's a really good question, because if you but what we've done is built in at a very low cost. Julie, I can't remember, but it's like $150 or something like that,
Yeah.
a little bit more. But it guarantees every single student has access to every resource in a digital format. Not only does that help on the learning aspect that it makes those materials available to everybody. It also is a much better document. Books are out of date the moment they leave the press. And so these books can be updated. They've got testing apparatus in there. They've got videos. They've got interactive simulations. That's the way, that's a great example actually around the digitization of Northwood. So that's actually, we launched that, I think it was last year. And I think a game changer. And it could possibly, I say could possibly, there's lots of factors, but it could possibly be one of the factors of why our retention rate went up so well last year, is that people imagine actually have the resources that they need to learn from. So really good question.
All right. Well, thank you, President MacDonald. Again, I just want to remind everyone, two big events coming up is Auto Show next weekend, September 18th through the 21st, where our students host a large auto show on campus. And we also host the Outstanding Alumni Awards, the Auto Show fundraising gala, and lots of other activities and events. So if you have time, I encourage you to come on campus. And President MacDonald is guaranteeing perfect weather for that, I hear. Also, trip to Ireland that was mentioned. Watch your email for a very specific invite that is happening in July of 26. The trip will fill up fast. It is a December deadline to sign up, but you're not going to get a trip like this anywhere else, through anywhere else. You get to travel with Kent and First Lady Mary Ellen and a few other Northwood leaders. So watch for that in your email. And we hope that some of you can join us on that trip. And lastly, our webinar next month in October is with alumnus Aaron Goodwin. And the title is From Operator to Owner, the Mindset Shifts Every Entrepreneur Must Make. The talk will focus on helping alumni who run businesses or side hustles and how to transition from doing everything themselves to building empowered teams. So very good topic for many of our alumni. As we all know, 30% of our alumni own part or all of their own business. So a great topic, we hope, in October. Thanks again for everyone for joining us, and we hope to see you again next month and next weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.